It's now time for our Q&A session. So Amy Rossi, an instructional design coach at Garden Valley, will be facilitating this part of the workshop. However, I don't see anything in the Q&A, Amy.
We have one question that came up earlier. I think it would be probably for AJ. What are your thoughts on AI and standardized testing? Do you think eventually this will push standardized testing out so that there's more time for the real work to be done?
We already have 18 states around the country that have some type of performance-based assessment pilot going on right now. New York State being the most recent of one. By 2027, they're going to decide if they're getting rid of their Regents test, which is their big standardized tests, and moving completely to performance-based assessments. So everybody's heading in this direction. And I think they're heading in this direction for a couple of reasons. AI may be one, but what they're really seeing is pushback from stakeholders, parents, community members, school leaders, administrators, teachers at large, and also funding not being the funding to standardize testing the way it used to be. And so I firmly believe that AI is going to play a role in it. I don't think it maybe is going to be the main agent, but it's going to play a role in that. However, there's still going to be lots of companies that are going to be making these things and getting money from it, and policymakers around it. So there will be probably a substitute, not a full replacement for standardized testing, which we're seeing at a lot of states across the country.
Thank you. Kevin Windsor says, it sounds as if we will ultimately pivot from text-based proof to oral-based proof. If speaking more effectively becomes a more amplified way to assess, should that be an alternate focus with AI? If so, does that relate to our SEL programs? These skills are somewhat covered at the secondary level, but not directly addressed in the elementary grades.
And I think one of the big things that we're going to see is just assessing the learning process, not the final product. And I think oral becomes a part of that. But for example, math teachers that I've been working with have had students screencasting what they're doing, talking through their thinking, answering their process, and sharing that as a response rather than just the answers in the work. Our writing teachers are having sessions where kids are video annotating their work and writing, sharing why they put different types of things, what their process was. So they're assessing that process instead of that final product. I would say there's still going to be a big role for writing and things that are text-based, but most of that's going to be inside the classroom walls. Anything that you're giving outside as homework or an assignment, we should just expect students will be having some AI assistance in some way, shape, or form in what they're doing. So I think oral becomes a part of it, but I don't think that text-based is going away. I think it's just going to look a little bit different, especially at how we assess it.
And our last question, do you have any advice for how to start using AI in the elementary classrooms? A lot of the secondary teachers seem to have a lot of good ideas for jumping off points, but what about elementary classrooms?
I can speak a little bit. As Meg and I were doing a lot of, our research and work on instruction for this presentation, there's just a lot, I think, of idea generating that happens in the elementary classroom that I think as a starting point for teachers, maybe you're not using it maybe you're using it more so for the design of your lessons rather than with your students and designing policies for how your students might use it, but rather for you to generate those choice boards or those criteria rubrics, or maybe it's just different lessons to get students up and moving and showing their creativity, or ways that students can demonstrate their learning in different ways.
I'll add to that, Nikki. A lot of the work that we did in the spring with upper level elementary classes was around TDAs and writing those text dependent analysis questions. And they could even use AI to generate writing pieces. And then what you're asking them to do is like a next level analysis, or you could ask them to improve on what AI does, or cite the specific evidence from text, or like to get them started, or use it for very specific targeted parts of that lesson. So I think for older kids, they can start to learn how to generate some of those exemplars for themselves and then evaluate the use. I think part of that is where that digital literacy comes in, is teaching them how to use it in ways that we might also use it in late elementary years, so that they know wait a second, this is good, but it's also missing some of the things that are on the rubric that it already exists, and or that human element, that human voice is missing. So I think we can use it in ways that we're thinking of in similar ways that we're thinking of for ourselves with the students, so that they can learn how to be a partner with AI and learn what its capabilities are. I know that's come up a few times, like what it is and what it's not. And I think writing is just one example, but I think you could even have them type in, could you work out a solution for this math problem, some sort of fraction problem, and then say, no, show me the steps, and it will work it out and break down a math problem in a step-by-step way. And if a different student asks a different prompt, they may be able to just do some comparing of responses, and things like that, I think would go a long way.